Good morning. Today is 16 December, the year 2025. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in Palm Springs, California. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in our country's military conflicts. Today, I'm here at the museum along with fellow volunteer Diane Thompson. And today we have the honor and the privilege of hearing the story of fellow volunteer, Lieutenant Colonel Kathy Gardner. Colonel Gardner was primarily a flight nurse in the U.S. Air Force from 1993 till 2008. So we're going to talk to her about that and a lot of other things. Kathy, so good to have you here, Colonel.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Okay, Colonel, would you please state and spell your full name?
My full name is Catherine Blanche Gardner, Katherine. Blanche is Blanche. Last name Gardner, Gardner.
And where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Baltimore, Maryland, at I think it was Baltimore General Hospital.
And what year and date was that?
December 6th, 1945.
Okay, right before Pearl Harbor Day, huh?
Right.
Did you live right in Baltimore, or did you grow up in Baltimore as well?
I did. I lived kind of out of the inner city in a suburb called Govans.
How do you spell that?
Govans.
Okay. And what kind of a neighborhood was that?
It was a fun neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody. Unlike today, but back then we all knew our neighbors. And my parents had bought a duplex, and we lived in the downstairs apartment and the basement, and then we rented out the upper.
I see. Yeah. So your dad, what was his name?
John.
And what did he do?
John Henry Kirchheiner.
How do you spell that?
Oh boy. Kirchheiner.
Oh, wow. Is that your maiden name then?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so what did he do?
He was a salesman, but of note, he was a warrant officer in the Navy, and he was stationed in the Galapagos Islands and had the privilege of touring Eleanor Roosevelt when she visited the Galapagos Islands.
And that was during World War II?
I'm not altogether sure when it was.
Did he serve during World War II, your dad?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure what his service dates were, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, maybe it was prior to. I don't know. Yeah, when Eleanor. Yeah, but that is an interesting story.
Yeah. I have a picture of he and Eleanor.
Do you really?
I do.
Oh, well, send me that picture too. We can have
Okay,
that
if I
today.
can locate. I think
That would be cool.
my daughter has it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But if you can, yeah. So he, but he was in the Navy. Do you know what his job was or what he was doing?
He was a diesel engineer.
Oh.
He loved diesel engines.
So it was on a ship that
Yes.
that they took her around on. Oh, okay.
Well, I'm not sure.
quite sure.
I don't have the details
Okay, yeah.
because my dad's been gone for many, many years.
Yeah. And so he was a sales. Who did he work for when he was a salesman?
He worked for a company called Gomprecht and Benish in Baltimore, Maryland, and he was the buyer for carpets for that store. It was kind of an exclusive furniture store in Baltimore.
Yeah. And his ancestors, where did he come from from the old country, your dad?
Probably Bavaria, because there is a town in Bavaria called Kirchheim.
Oh, okay.
So I know we're German pretty much through and through. His mother was actually born in Switzerland, in Montreux,
Oh, yeah.
right at Lake Geneva. And she was a dressmaker, and she came here when she was 18.
Oh, that was okay. His mom, yeah. And what about your mother? What's her name and her maiden name?
Her name was Catherine Elizabeth Waltemeyer. Waltemeyer, so I said German through and through.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's Waltemeyer.
And do you know anything about her ancestors, where they all came from and stuff?
Oh gosh, I don't, but I know they're German because there was also Snyder, Snyder. So,
Do you know how your mom and dad met, or when they met?
I don't.
Yeah, okay. Don't know if they went to school together.
No, they did not go to school together because back then a lot of people didn't go through school.
Yeah.
They didn't graduate high school.
Did your mom grow up in Baltimore too?
Yes, she did.
Oh.
And I think my dad was born in Virginia.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And do you have any brothers and sisters?
I do not. I'm an only.
Just like her. Diane's an only child as well. But neither of you are spoiled, correct?
Oh, no. Well, the truth is, when you're an only, you have no brothers and sisters to blame, so you take the hit for everything.
Was your family very religious? Did you go to church a lot?
Yes. They were not really religious, but they made sure that I went to a Lutheran school from kindergarten through grade 8.
What was the name of that school?
Immanuel Lutheran School.
And what part of Baltimore did you grow up in?
Govins.
Do you remember your house, what it was like, your house?
Yeah, my parents had bought a duplex, and we lived downstairs, and they rented out the upstairs. And of course, in Baltimore, you have basements. So we did a lot of things. My dad used to do all of his clams and oysters downstairs in the stationary tub. That's what they called it.
In your neighborhood, what was it like? Was it mostly German people, or just all kinds, or what?
No, it was mixed nuts there. We had a lot of the kids in my neighborhood were Catholic, so they went to the Catholic school while I went to the Lutheran school. And it was not an ethnic neighborhood.
Yeah. And what did you kids do for fun when you were growing up in your neighborhood?
Gosh, my best memory is I lived at the top of a hill, and when it snowed, we would all sled down the street as from my house. And I can remember playing red light, green light. That was one of my favorite games too. I don't think they do that anymore.
Maybe. I think Diane talks about how when she was about that age in LA, she lived at the top of a hill, and her girlfriend and her would roller skate down the hill.
Right.
As fast as they could go.
Well, we had an ice rink there too, so I ice skated when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And there were two gentlemen who were semi-professional ice skaters, and I guess I was little at the time, and they would spin me around. So that was fun.
Oh, yeah. And where'd you go to high school?
Eastern High School. It was an all-girls school, directly across from City College, which was an all-boys school.
Was that a Lutheran type school?
No.
Huh.
That was public school.
Public schools. The first time I ever heard of a public school where they just had either boys or girls, or was it the real close to each other? Where I mean, the school was. Both schools were called the same? Or
No.
had different names?
One was Eastern High School, the other was City College.
Huh. Okay. And
Actually, there were a lot of split schools because there was Polytechnic Institute, which was all boys,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
can't think of the other girls' school
Mhm.
because I was more interested in the boys' school.
I wonder why. Speaking of that, did you have any special boyfriends in high school?
Oh gosh. Yes, I dated Wayne Thompson, and he was in ROTC at Loyola College.
Okay.
And I went to a dance. I don't even know what the dance was, but I had on this beautiful gown, and he was all dressed in his
ROTC.
olive colored uniform.
Oh, cool.
So I felt really special.
You went with an older man.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I guess he was.
Well,
I
in
kind of
college,
always
right?
dated older men.
And was there a movie theater in your neighborhood? A neighborhood theater? Did you go
Yes,
on like
the
Saturday?
Senator Theater.
Senator.
Senator. It was beautiful, and it had a gorgeous multicolored marquee that lit up.
Yeah. Do you remember the car that your favorite car that your father had, or that
He
you
had a Chrysler, and the windows went up and down automatically, which was a big deal back then.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember one winter, one of the windows got stuck, so we had snow all in the back seat of the car.
What color was that Chrysler? Do you remember?
It was a light blue, I believe,
And
with a white top.
Oh, do you remember what year? What model?
I think it was a 57 because it had
Fins.
the fins, right?
It was then, yeah. And did you drive in high school? Did you drive your car?
I didn't get my driver's license till I was 17, and my dad had another Chrysler product car that was like a teal blue, and I remember playing hooky one day, and it was one day I had the car, and we went to Scranton, Pennsylvania, thinking we were a big deal, right? Well, it was election day, so everything was closed. So our big adventure wasn't so big after all.
Yeah. And when you kids, did you have a hamburger place that you would hang out?
Yes, Amici's. Don Amici was a Baltimore Colt.
Oh, right.
And he
yeah.
started a drive-in hamburger deal. And we used to go there, always Amici's. And there was the Loch Raven Diner. We would go to the Loch Raven Diner after certain events. Gosh, this is digging deep.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of these places in years.
Yeah, that's always fun, yeah. So do you remember any of your favorite teachers in school?
I had a teacher, she was a history. It was my first year in public school, and it was Mrs. Driver. And she always dressed to the nines. She was very well groomed. She was an African American teacher, and I loved her. She just had she connected with her students in a way that many teachers are unable to do. But I just loved her. So I loved history.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah. Did you go to the prom?
Did I go to the prom?
2 proms, usually.
You know, I don't think so. I went to a lot of events, but being an all-girls school, I don't think we had a prom.
Yeah, you have to import with the boys.
Exactly. High school was not my strong suit. College, on the other hand, was great. But I really didn't like high school at all.
What year did you graduate from high school then?
1963.
63. And then you went to college right away?
No, I got married and I was pregnant with my daughter. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so she was born when I was 18.
Okay.
So
And
no college, nothing like that.
what was her father's name?
Robert Claude Ziegenfuss, another German. I'm noticing a theme here. And that was Ziegenfuss. I think it means goat's beard or something.
Where did he go to high school? Was he from Baltimore too?
No, he grew up in Pennsylvania. And so, because his dad went to state college, his dad and mom went
Penn
to
State?
state
Penn State?
college, Penn State, in-state college.
So then, was he working or what was he doing?
He was a draftsman for an engineering company. He was about 6 years older than me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And
He had a Corvette,
oh,
and I learned to drive a standard shift on a Corvette. And there are big hills in Baltimore, so I remember many mornings that I went screeching around the corner trying to get the car in gear.
so how long were you married?
About 3 years.
Okay. And but you had your daughter. What's your daughter's name?
Christine.
Christine.
Christine, well, it was Ziegenfuss back then.
Where does she live now?
She lives here in Palm Desert.
Oh, okay. And what does she do?
She is retired. She's a retired florist. She's very artistic.
And does she have family? Kids?
Oh yeah, I have 2 grandchildren. So we decided not to. She's an only, I'm an only, so she decided to have 2.
And what are their names?
The older one is Sophia Elizabeth Bressani de Holanda. Her dad is Brazilian.
Oh, okay.
So, and the younger one is Catherine Grace de Holanda. And they used his mother's name, my mother's name, my name, as their names.
Yeah. They go to school? Are they in school?
The older one just graduated from UCSD this year, and she lives in Poway, California. The younger one is wanting to be a chef, so she's working in the restaurant industry.
And did you go in the military before you went to college, or?
No, basically my daughter was grown when I went in the military. I was 47, but I was a nurse, and they take nurses up to 48.
So where'd you go to college or nursing school or what?
Well, I went to Essex Community College in Baltimore, Maryland, because I lived there till I was 38. So I graduated from nursing school, I think in 1978. And I worked at Shepherd and Enoch Pratt Hospital to put myself through nursing school. And then my very first nursing job was at Johns Hopkins University in the Marburg building, which is now a historical site at Johns Hopkins, in adult neurology and neurosurgery. Because I always wanted to be a behavioral health nurse. And I went into adult neurology and neurosurgery to kind of look at the nature-nurture aspect of mental illness.
When you were a kid, did you think at that time you thought you might want to be a nurse?
I did. Yeah.
A couple
Of course, for women, usually it's teaching or nursing.
Right. I meant to ask you a couple other things too. Did you have any odd jobs when you were going to high school?
My parents didn't want me to work. But I remember when I was 13, I would go with my dad, and I worked at, it was called the Jewelry Box, and I worked with a German lady. And I loved being there. I loved being with her. I loved jewelry, of course. And then my very first job, I guess after my husband and I separated, I worked as an apprentice in a beauty salon, again with German women. So noticing a theme here in my life as we talk. And they really, the work ethic and the way that they operated, I loved being there. They worked hard, and they were very skilled.
Also, I wanted to ask you too, did your family take family vacations much when you were growing up?
We used to go to a place called Tolchester, and I remember, because my mother was a teetotaler, straight-laced as they come, but she loved to gamble. And so in Tolchester, they had gambling machines, which is, prevalent now, but it wasn't back then.
Was
So
that in Maryland?
I think it was on the Eastern Shore.
Did you go to the beach much?
Yes, I used to go to Ocean City, Maryland, every weekend that I possibly could. I loved being at the beach.
How far was that from your home?
It was across the Bay Bridge, which at that time I think was the longest bridge. It was 5 miles long. And God, the traffic was just, it's like going to LA now. So it took forever to get there. But we loved being there. And so I did that in the summer.
Did you cook much? Did your mom teach you how to cook, and what did she?
My mother and my grandmother were wonderful cooks. I have some of their recipes. I do not like to cook, especially. So.
What were your favorite meals that they would cook?
Oh, my grandmother used to make lamb with roast potatoes and gravy and sauerkraut. We always have sauerkraut. Again, noticing a theme. Still to this day. And my mother's pies were fair quality pies. Her crust just melted in your mouth. And my favorite that she made was lemon meringue. So when I order a lemon meringue pie, because I get to her house, the pies had just come out of the oven. So when I had my pie, it would be warm. So when I order a lemon meringue pie, I always ask people, could you please put it in the microwave? Oh. And they look at me like I have 3 heads, but it's how I remember the pie.
So when did you graduate from nursing school then?
In 1978.
And where was that? What school did you go to?
Essex Community College.
Okay, so they had a nursing program.
My first career, I was a hairdresser, actually, because I became licensed as a cosmetologist.
Okay.
And then I got sick, and I could only work 1 day a week. So I had to find something else to do. And through all that, I eventually got to Shepherd Enoch Pratt Hospital. And I had a temporary job there. And then I morphed into working and becoming a mental health worker, and then an advanced mental health worker where I could give medications. And I just loved what I did, so I went to nursing school.
Yeah. And what year was that?
I started school in 75, and I took 4 courses, and I got an A, a B, a C, and a D. And I decided I didn't like C and D, so I went then to being pretty much an A student. And I loved college. Did not like high school, but I loved college.
Yeah. And they were all nursing classes you had?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And when did you graduate then from
1978, I believe.
RN?
Yes. Yeah, I took the RN boards.
Okay, yeah. And then you got a job right away, or what?
Yeah, my first job was at Johns Hopkins.
Yeah. Was pretty famous, still is.
Oh, it's it's one of the best institutions in the world. We had people come from all over the world. I had two patients I remember specifically. And this particular patient she was in the textile business in, I want to say either Ecuador or Peru. Mm-hmm. But she told me the story of her husband who had tuberculosis. She took him on the back of a donkey to a facility that was for tuberculosis. And he actually recovered and got better, which in a third world country is kind of unheard of. But what a tremendous person she was. And there was another lady whose family, she had a brain tumor, and her family were here from Ecuador. And they were just so lovely and so caring. And I still remember many of my patients from then.
How long did you work there then?
I guess I was there about 2.5 years, because I went from adult neurology, neurosurgery, back to, back to mental health. And then I went back to Shepherd and Enoch Pratt Hospital as an RN. But I remember the director of nursing at the time when I was graduating from nursing school, he said, I enjoy your work ethic, but I'm not going to allow you to come here as an RN. I want you to have at least a year's nursing experience before you come back here. It was one of the best advices that I ever got, because it's important to know how to be a nurse before how to manage physical illness and recovery before you go back into behavioral health. Mm-hmm. So I've had great mentors all my life.
And when did you go into the military then?
I went into the military June 21st, 1993. I signed on the dotted line. But actually, backing up, I was for a bachelor's in nursing. I was going to the University of Phoenix in Fountain Valley, California. And through a series of what I call God incidences, I got into the class. There were 10 of us in the class. 6 of them were military nurses. And so my best friend at the time said, hey, you want to join the Air Force? And I said, I'm too old. And she said, no, you're not. The cutoff is 48. And I was 47 at the time. So it took a year, but after a year, and I never in 1,000 years thought I'd get in, but I wound up taking my oath a year later when I was 47.
Had you remarried by this time?
No.
Okay. And what did you go in? What rank when you first
I went in as captain because I had been a nurse for 15 years.
Right, 03. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I did marry again. When I first came to California in 1983, I did marry again, and that was crazy. It was a crazy time. I was crazy. I had just arrived here. I had lived, worked, and schooled within a 10-mile radius my whole life, and then I moved across country to California.
What prompted that move?
I had always wanted to come to California. My daughter was old enough, because I wanted to come when she was 12, but she didn't want to come. So I didn't come then, but when she was 18, I just said, well, if not now, when? So I came to California, I got married again. We lived on a sailboat and moored by the Queen Mary. And actually, I got married on the Queen Mary in the captain's quarters. How did I forget that part? But anyway, that's what happened. And like I said, it was just a crazy time. And my life kind of took a turn after that. When I was 40, things just shifted for me. And I got serious about a lot of things. So anyway, 7 years later, I joined the military. And, you know, my life from the time I was 40 has been an upward trajectory. And I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. So where were you first stationed then when you went in?
Well, Norton Air Force Base in San Bernardino was transitioning to March, which is now March Air Reserve Base. And so when I joined, it was right during that transition. So I was sort of a stepchild for a while. And eventually they got to March, and my very first assignment was the 452nd ASTS, which is Air Medical Staging Squadron, which is the Air Force's equivalent to a MASH unit. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, Colonel Anderson was our commanding officer, and she was the queen of acronyms. And I remember sitting there at the orientation, and she used so many acronyms. I thought, oh my God, this is like a whole new language. So eventually I got a sheet that had all these acronyms on it, so I could begin to understand what she was talking about. Colonel Anderson, Diane Anderson. She was a nurse as well.
Mm-hmm. And so you were treating, what year was this again?
1993.
Okay.
So 94, I went to MIMSO, which is Military Indoctrination of Medical Service Officers, which essentially is you learn how to wear your uniform, you learn how to march, dress right, stand in line, attention, salute, how to shine your boots. I remember our senior ranking officer was a gentleman from the Philippines, and he was a major, and he did not know how to iron his uniform, so we had to teach him how to iron his uniform, and somebody else in the group knew how to shine boots. So it was just my first experience of esprit de corps, and I just loved it.
Where was that?
Gosh, I think it was at Shepherd Air Force Base. I'm not altogether sure, but I think it was Shepherd Air Force Base.
Where is Shepherd?
You're asking me hard questions. I'm not even sure of that.
Yeah,
Or it might have been Maxwell. And Maxwell, I think, is in Alabama or Georgia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they were generally where schools were, those two areas. I went to a lot of different schools
Now,
there.
where was the Gulf War, was that going on around that time?
I think so. Gosh. Yeah,
Let's put it this way. During your career in the military, did you see any casualties from any of the...
Well, yeah, when I was deployed in 2003. But not before that.
Okay. So between then and 2003, what were you doing? Where were you?
Well, when I went to MIMSO, there were flight nurses. And quite honestly, I liked their uniforms better than the fatigues. So and I love planes, obviously, I'm here. And I decided I wanted to be a flight nurse. But through a series of whatevers, it took a long time for me to be a flight nurse. I tried 6 times before I finally was able to do it. But anyway, from the ASTS, the same gal that talked to me about going in at, the reserves said, hey, you want to go active duty? And I said, sure. My daughter was grown, so when I was 50, I went active duty, and I was stationed at Lackland Air Force Base. And oddly enough, she was scheduled to go to Biloxi, Mississippi, and she said, that's the only place I won't go. So she never went active duty, but I did. So I was there for 4 years. I started out in behavioral health. I was a staff nurse on the behavioral health unit. And toward the end, they riffed, reduction in force, all the non-retirement eligible nurses, because being 47, I couldn't retire by the time I was 60. So they riffed us all out. And I had kind of taken a demotion from my prior career to being a staff nurse. So I talked to Bonnie, the chief nurse there at Wilford Hall. And I said, I took this demotion, I need some sort of transition back to the community. So I got trained then as a case manager. And that's what I did when I got out of the military. I worked for, I guess I worked actually at Redlands Community Hospital. And I became the nurse manager there.
Where's that?
It's in Redlands, California.
Oh, okay.
And I really did not like being a manager. And so I just finally thought, this isn't bringing me joy. I don't want to do this anymore. So I went from there to case management, and I worked at Inland AIDS Project for about 5 years and Desert AIDS Project as a case manager for about 2 years after that. And I loved doing that because I got community nursing, and I got to see people in their homes and to help them order their homes in a way that promoted healthy living.
Was that here locally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Inland AIDS Project was in Riverside. Yeah. Desert AIDS Project, of course, is out here.
Yeah. But let's go back to it. So when you got deployed to Iraq, tell me about that.
Well, I was just finishing up my master's degree at the University of Phoenix, and I was in the 452nd Aeromedical Evacuation Squadron. And I'm going to back up a minute, because when I got off active duty, I was accepted by Colonel Ann Hamilton, who was the squadron commander for the Aeromedical Evacuation Unit. And she took me in hands down. She didn't even care how old I was. I guess I got my master's degree. I just lost my train of thought, because thinking how it all happened. Let's see. Oh, I know. I got riffed from Wilford Hall, and immediately, because I had met Colonel Hamilton, Ann Hamilton, at a conference, and my friend recommended me, and she took me immediately, and I went to flight school at Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio. So I went right from Wilford Hall, Lackland Air Force Base, to Brooks, I guess it was Brooks Air Force Base, and I went to flight school. So I became a flight nurse, and then went back to March Air Reserve Base in the 452nd AES, which is Air Medical Evacuation Squadron. And I had just graduated with my master's degree, so I told them in 2002, move me up to number one, just let me get finished with my master's degree. That's what they did. And sure enough, I graduated in November 2002, and we all know what happened in March of 2003. So I was deployed in February, planning to be deployed for a year, but I wound up being only deployed till August. There were 3 squadrons: McCord, Wright-Patterson, and March, all sent 15 aircrew and nurses to be deployed to Iraq and to transport patients from Iraq downrange to Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. So we went to England and we set up the entire air medical evacuation effort for the war. The interesting thing was we used to have 13 equipment bags, and I believe the Air Force just prior to that had cut down to 7 bags with the same amount of equipment that we used to put in 13. So if you've ever been in the military, you totally understand that thinking. And so we had big, huge crates of equipment, IV equipment and all kinds of stuff that we had to put in these and put them on litters so that we would, when we're ready to go, we just grab the litter and it's already stocked. So that was pretty interesting. There was not funding for the war. So we had difficulty getting transportation. We had to stay in, I guess, Mildenhall. But we were put up at the Hilton for a while. And then when the war broke out, we all were taken to base between Lakenheath and Mildenhall. We were in a condemned building, and we had to put up a big curtain between the male side and the female side. And so that was interesting, and they wanted us to guard planes because they were storming the bases, and they gave us an air gun. So, I mean, that was the big joke. It's like, what, we're going to put them deaf?
No, so where were you?
I was at Mildenhall and Lakenheath.
In where?
Oh, in England.
In England. You're still in England.
Yeah, we went from California to England.
Right, okay.
And we were put up at the Hilton, and then we were put up in a
Right.
condemned building.
But did casualties come through there? Or
Yes.
Or what? Okay, on their way to England, to Germany? Or
No,
did they come
well, we would go from England to Germany, and then from Germany to Sigonella, which is in
Italy.
Sicily.
Sicily, yeah.
And then we would fly downrange from Sigonella to, we'd usually stay overnight and then fly downrange, pick up wounded, and then go all the way back to Ramstein. So our return trips, were as long as 26 hours at a time. And we would have from 1 to 2 air crews. So it would be, an air crew is comprised of 3 air crew and 2 nurses, a medical crew director, and the flight nurse who did the medications and that kind of thing. The interesting thing is the little shoe things that you put in your closet where you put shoes, and they're little plastic pieces, we used those for IVs because we didn't have enough tubing. Wow. So we had to reuse tubing for that specific patient. So in other words, if you needed an IV, we would use the same tubing for you, not that we would transfer tubing between patients. So it was kind of interesting when you think about it, that you have a war that breaks out, but you don't have funding, you don't have really the proper equipment or enough. And I know that's an age-old story, so it's nothing new under the sun.
What type of injuries did most of the guys have that you were trying
Well, this one guy, I'll never forget him. He was on the lower tier on the plane because we were on C-141s. So we had pretty complicated stanchions to have the litters, and they would be 3 to 5, usually 3 or 4 high. But this one kid was there, and he was about waist level, and he had been shot in the butt. And he just, honestly, the attitude was so heartfelt for me. These were kids. And, I said, how can I help you? And he said, no, ma'am, it's okay, I got it. And I just, that's a kind of experience that you don't get in civilian life. You just don't. You don't see people with that kind of bravery and heart and patriotism. You just don't. So,
Probably not as demanding as patients in civilian life, I would assume.
Well, we all have. There's specific goodies to each area, but it was an experience that I'll never ever forget. I mean, I see it, and even my first nursing job, that's like a mental movie to me, and taking care of the wounded. It was just, anyway, I flew 3 missions downrange, and then I injured my shoulder, and I couldn't lift anybody anymore. So I became the flight clinical coordinator for flights. And what that person does is you set up the aircraft with kind of walkie-talkies, people that were able to ambulate, and then the middle of the plane would be people that required litters or stretchers. And then the end of the plane, we had what's called CCAT teams. We called them kitty cats, but it was critical care air transport teams. And that was a physician, a respiratory therapist, and a critical care nurse. And they would usually be 1, maximum 2 patients, and they would be the last on the aircraft and the first off. So that was on a 141 initially, which is now retired, of course, from the Air Force. They don't use that anymore. They've gone to a C-17, which is much easier to configure. It can be configured by 1 person, not 5. So anyway, I remember one time my friend gave me a prayer, and it kind of, the essence of the prayer is, may you always be encased in a bubble. And I remember we landed in, I think it was Qatar, and the group before us had to go into mop gear, which is, protective against biological warfare. And the flight after us had to go into mop gear. And my flight was there the longest on the runway than anybody else. And we didn't have to go into mop gear. So I always credited my friend for her bubble prayer to keep us safe while we were there. And so I was in Ramstein as the flight clinical coordinator. When I started, that person was doing 1, maybe 2 flights a week. And then that person left, and it was myself and 1 other person. And within the next week or 2, we were up to 1 to 2 flights a day. So we were working 18 to 24 hours to get the aircraft fully loaded from Landstuhl Army Medical Center into the aircraft at Ramstein, and from there they went to Konus or Andrews Air Force Base. So, and in the middle of all that, my daughter was pregnant with her second child with Gracie, and she went into preterm labor. So the Red Cross notified my unit, or she notified the Red Cross, I guess. They notified, and so they sent me home for 2 weeks to be with her. And then when I got back 2 weeks later, that particular group had morphed into, I believe it was 8 people, because there were so many flights and so many injured. So, yeah, it was just amazing to see the progression. I thought it was going to be, oh, this is a piece of cake. It turned from a piece of cake to a pie, to a whole pie.
Yeah.
But it was really one of the best experiences of my life. And from that, I got a commendation medal, for which I was very grateful.
So, and then you retired from the military in 2008?
I did not retire. So what happened was, after my injury, I couldn't fly anymore. I couldn't be part of the flying squadron. So I interviewed for the chief nurse at the medical squadron at the clinic at March Air Reserve Base, and I was selected to do that. And in between there, I went from major, which is 04, to a lieutenant colonel. So I pinned on my lieutenant colonel. I went from 1 UTA, Unit Training Assembly, to 2. So I would do 2 UTAs a month because we had 4,000 troops to see at the clinic. So it was pretty busy because there was no hospital there. So we were it for, the troops. So let's see. And that too was a tremendous experience. All my Air Force experience prepared me for so much in life.
Yeah. And so what year did you come down here?
Okay, so what happened was I turned 60. And when you're, the military, they can waive anything if they need you. So there's an age waiver, and I applied for the age waiver, and I got it. I had thought about going to in residence, because I had gone to squadron officer school in residence, and I wanted to go to, when I was a major, I wanted to go in residence, but it got to be too much for me. So I started going to, I forget what they call it. Anyway, what you need to do to go into lieutenant colonel. But so I applied for an age waiver, I got it, and then when I was 63, which was in 2008, I had applied for another age waiver. And actually General Melin, M-E-L-I-N, came to me in December, because my mandatory separation date was December 31st, 2008. He came to me on the 21st of December, and he said, Colonel Gardner, we tried every way we could because we really value you and what you've done here. But there was we were rank heavy and, many other factors. We just couldn't give you the. He said, if you'd have needed one more age waiver, we would have given it to you hands down. But you would have needed 2 to make it to 68 to retire. because now you can retire at 68. You don't have to just be 60 anymore, because I think they're aligned with federal retirement, which I think was elevated to 68. So that was a shock, because I really thought I'd get it. But the fact that he came spoke volumes about him as a commander, because he was the wing commander. For him to do that just really touched my heart. And so it was like, okay, now that I'm not doing the Air Force, what else am I going to do? So that was in 2008. And I started, I guess, gosh, I don't even remember. It's hard to sort of put things together. But I retired fully in 2017 from Eisenhower Medical Center. I worked in the quality department for, I guess it was 7 or 8 years.
Well, when did you first come to the desert then? To Palm Springs
Oh
area?
gosh, I came to the desert in 2000 when I got out of flight school. I moved to Redlands and I bought a house. I stayed with a friend of mine. That's when I went to squadron officer school in 2000. And I injured my knee there. I fell and tore my ACL. So I needed to have that taken care of. Anyway, I finally bought a house in Redlands and I lived there for 10 years. My family, my son-in-law, at the time, my ex-son-in-law now, graduated from Rutgers, and he did greens for golf courses, which is very lucrative, and his contract was up in 2005. So he and my daughter and my 2 grandchildren decided to move here because my daughter's dad had died in the meantime in 2004. So his contract was up in 2005. They moved here to Rancho La Quinta. And so he was there for a couple of years. And I would drive back to Redlands on the weekends because I'd come to visit my grandkids. And I always had a dark cloud right about at Cabazon. And I thought, I'm a sunshine girl. So I decided to rent my house in Redlands and move to La Quinta. I bought a house in La Quinta. And it's the house I'm still in now, 14 years later. And I have never looked back. I love being here. Yes, the summers are hot, but I love being in the sunshine and waking up to sunshine every single day.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, when you with desert care,
Desert AIDS Project.
Yeah. Now, when did you? When were you doing that here in the valley?
That was. It must have been. Let me think. I came to Redlands in 2000. Moved here in 2009. So I went to Desert AIDS Project, I believe in 2007.
Okay.
And then I went to Eisenhower in 2009.
And what did you do at Eisenhower?
Well, I started out doing clinical documentation integrity, which is you do chart review and that sort of thing for any discrepancies. And I went from there to quality, and I worked in quality where I did like minutes for cases that were being reviewed for internal medicine, surgery, family medicine, and the emergency room. So there were a couple of us who did that, and that's when I left there in I had back surgery in 2016. So I had to wear like a turtle shell for 2 months. And then when I went back, they had kind of eliminated my position. And I was only part-time at the time anyway. I was 72 and I thought, do I retire or do I not retire? And I was talking to a friend and I said, I just don't know what to do. So when I got back and they had eliminated my position, I went, well, I guess I have my answer. And really, I've never looked back. Now I was a practitioner for religious science, Centers for Spiritual Living. And now I'm a minister. I just was ordained in Kansas City.
Congratulations.
in August, and I'm with Global Truth Spiritual Center in Palm Springs, and we hold services on Saturday afternoons at 4, and we're kind of a desert arm for Global Truth Spiritual Center in Westlake Village in LA.
So what is the thrust of that? I mean, what is
New Thought is, it's from Ralph Waldo Emerson, was a New Thought person. Millard Fillmore, Unity, you might be more familiar with Unity, is a church.
I've heard of the Unity Church.
What we do in Palm Springs at GT Spiritual Center is more, it's not a dogmatic type thing. It's more taking personal responsibility for what's happening in your life. And so our belief systems lead to how we show up in life. So if we're from very rigid belief systems, unless we do some kind of transitioning on our own, we wind up being pretty rigid folks because we're sort of stuck in the old messages that we got that may have worked then but don't work now, depending on how we mature in life. But essentially, whatever you're involved in your life kind of says what your belief systems are. You know, you're in the helping profession as well. So that sort of spiritual energy creates the life that you have, you know, in how you relate to people, how you show up in life. So that resonates with me a lot more than the traditional religions, let's say, the fire and brimstone stuff,
Right.
and that. So
Other than that, what do you do to occupy yourself these days?
well, I'm a docent here at the Palm Springs Air Museum, and
you
I'm
are.
really excited about that.
Yeah.
For a long time, I was part of AMVETS, which is a veteran service organization, much like the VFW. It's American veterans, and with American veterans, you don't need to have been a veteran from foreign wars or any of that. You just need to have served. And my idea was that it took me a long time to really claim my veteran status because I thought I didn't put in 20 years, blah, blah, blah. Well, I came to Women's Luncheon in 2016, and I found out that so many of those women had only served 2 years or 4 years. I thought, gosh, I'm a veteran. So I became part of AMVETS at that time, and I went from the rank of judge advocate to I don't know what all I did, but anyway, eventually I was the commander of Post 77, which is in Loma Linda, and I did a lot of activities for them. I was very busy with that. I was part of the AMVETS Service Foundation. I was the secretary for the Service Foundation, and they're kind of the fundraiser for AMVETS. So through that, well, it was just a good thing, and it was time consuming because their main office is in Garden Grove. So I did a lot of things with that. And we took a bus tour, which we now call AMVETS 1, in support of suicide awareness for military, but also families of military and the community. And we took a bus tour in, I believe it was 2023. We went across country to Rolling to Remember in DC. And it was a 36-foot tour bus that Earth, Wind, and Fire use when they're not doing whatever we did. And I was part of that, the AMVETS 1 tour, for a couple of years. So I've been very involved in veteran service organizations for ever since 2016.
Any involvement with the VA?
Actually, I worked for the VA in 2001.
Did you?
I was on the behavioral health unit. Saw a lot of people with post-trauma stress, stuff like that. With the VA. So that was when I worked there. And of course, I get my care at the Loma Linda VA or the Palm Desert Clinic on occasion.
Okay. And you, how long have you been with the museum? When was the first time you came to the Palm Springs Air Museum?
Yeah, gosh, it was last year I came to an event in 2024, and I got to see it for the first time. I always rode by and I thought, oh, I should go over there, blah, blah, blah. Well, when I came to that event, it started germinating. I thought, oh, I'd sort of like to be involved there. And it took me a while, and my life calmed down quite a bit because my daughter became very, very ill in 2023 and really almost died. She's 100% better today and is living just a great life and loving life. So I'm very grateful for that. But that, I was basically her caretaker for about 10 months. I mean, daily, 24/7. So anyway, then I wound up, well, now that she's not going to die and she's going to live, because I pretty much dedicated my life as long as her life was. What am I going to do with my life and my time? So I did a couple things and eventually came here. So I'm almost a full-fledged docent, so I'm still in training. But I love it here. I love the energy. I love meeting. I met Al Dempsey, 94. He was shot down and evaded capture and was rescued. And I took SEER training, which is search, evade, rescue, and escape. Search, escape, I don't know how they go. But anyway, SEER training. And I just thought, gosh, to me, I have a strong sense for democracy and patriotism, and which is why I joined the military in the first place. That touches my heart. What we do here in this country is beyond anything anywhere else. The good, the bad, and the ugly, whatever it is, I believe in freedom. And one of the things after practitioner class with the Centers for Spiritual Living, they ask you, what do you want to do with your practitioner class, your practitioner license? And I said, I want to teach a class on freedom. And what I've recognized through my ministry and many other things is bringing light and joy and to help others experience the freedom to live out your heart's desire. Because to me, there's no greater joy than doing what resonates with my very soul. And this place, it really resonates with my very soul, because these are my brothers and sisters who taught me about esprit de corps, who taught me about having your fellow man's back, who taught me about being excellent in all that you do. And I incorporated that, I embody that in my very being. And I say that because I didn't always feel free in my life. So to be free at the way I am today, living in this country with these people, with this system, you know, whether it works well or it doesn't work well, but to be here and to do this is the greatest freedom that I've ever experienced in my life. And so the gratitude I feel to be here is kind of like, you know, how we get to things in life. When it's time, it's there if we step up and we say yes. That's the thing, saying yes to what comes up in my heart to do. So that's what's happening here. I'm sorry about all this nose business. But no, I feel these things deeply.
I can see that. I can see that. I guess maybe we're about ready to wrap it up. I always like to ask somebody like you if you had any advice for a young person, maybe getting out of high school and wondering what they really should do with their life, what might it be?
To me, the military has given me so much in my life, and even just 4 years to experience what it takes to get rank in the military, to enlist, to see the E9s and the E8s, the chiefs, who their very existence is to take the best care of their people. I learned so much from the enlisted, because I went in as an officer, and the enlisted took care of us because we didn't know what we were doing. And so, you know, that kind of care that has come out of my military experience, even if it's 2 years or 4 years, there are things to be learned here, if you choose, that help guide you in resources that are available. And that's the whole point of mentorship, which is the military, is to always know what resources are available. Even in SEER training, what are the resources in the ground that can feed me while I'm keeping myself safe? I mean, something as simple as that. My older granddaughter, her degree is in environmental sustainability. And I just think about that, you know, and she's having a hard time figuring out where to hone her skills or where to hone her future. So I think the military's a great place to start. It just teaches many things that you don't learn in other areas. I loved my military career, and people think I am the way I am because I joined the military till I tell them I'm 47. So I feel like I found the military which married up who I truly am in my core with, you know, what the military brought to me. So, and mostly just trust that spirit will lead where the heart wants to go. And the military is just a good place to sort of figure that out.
I want to thank you so much for your service to our country and your service to our community, and for coming in and sharing with us today.
Well,
and
certainly
for being here at the Air Museum.
My
with us.
privilege,
Okay.
believe me.
All right.